Mechanics are always a pretty hot topic in the Rocket League community. You can see Platinums double resetting and then Grand Champs that are barely able to hit 1. They generally do get better the higher up the ranks you go, but being a certain rank does not entitle you to a certain level of mechanics. Anyway, I've decided to revisit comparing mechanics across the Rocket League ranks to see how they've evolved since last time, and the majority of them are new mechanics so we can better see how each rank weighs up. I also got 2 participants from the ranks this time to give a slightly better idea and to show the variation within the ranks as well as between them. The 8 mechanics that I tested are recovery mechanics, a speed flip, dribbling the ball on the roof, air rolling, an aerial control course, a stall, a musty flick, and the ultimate mechanic on the list, a double reset. Also, be sure to subscribe if you enjoy the content. We are super close to 100k, so every sub from here to there means a lot. So without further ado, let's see how the players dealt with each mechanic. Before I delve into the analysis, you're probably wondering why it starts at gold. This is because these ranks are extremely scarce and me being from Australia does not make it any easier with time zones. Additionally, they would not be able to do the majority of the mechanics on the list, so I didn't see any point in including them. Alright, so pretty much all of the included ranks are able to do the basic recovery mechanics such as wave dashes and half flips. I totally expected this as they are some of the first mechanics that every tutorial tells you to learn and are also extremely simple and straightforward. The real difference came with the ease, consistency and smoothness at which they were able to execute them. Whilst yes, Golds and Grand Champs can do both the mechanics, the Grand Champs movement looks so much more fluid and they make it look so easy. So if you are looking like the lower ranks, definitely invest some time and practice into getting your wave dashes and half flips looking like the champs and GCs. This was one of the mechanics that was shown in the first installment, but I've decided to include it again simply because it was fairly new back then and I feel a lot of people have learned it in the 8 or so months since that video. Gold.
I just did it.
Yeah, I know you just
did it.
you did.
Yeah.
And this was exactly the case. As you can see, Rankslow is gold and now learning and executing the speed flip, so he's no longer a high rank exclusive mechanic. However, the high rank speed flips do look a lot cleaner purely because they have more practice and control over their car. It is developing into a staple mechanic like that of a half flip, so if you haven't already, I recommend learning it. I imagine, yeah, pretty easy. Okay, that was actually alright. Dribbling is something that I did not include in the last video and was one of the first things on my list. It is an extremely integral mechanic and by no means rank limited. As you can see, the lower ranks are beginning to grasp the basics of dribbling and how to control a dribble, however they are not at that point where it is etched into their muscle memory and becomes autonomous. How much easier that is? Just feather the boost. Yeah. You literally... As we move higher up the ranks, they demonstrate a higher level of control as they are able to keep the ball on their roof for longer and can begin to turn with the ball without losing it. Another huge thing that I noticed in the higher ranks was that they did not use much boost, which if you didn't know is essential to having a controlled dribble. The lower ranks were going back and forth because they use boost too often or not enough, whereas the higher ranks understand its purpose and the correct way to maximize it with a dribble. Yeah, you can already see the control. Like yeah, just keep the ball on your roof.
Yeah, nerves get you in this one though.
Yeah. As we begin to leave some of the ground mechanics behind, we move on to air rolling. Like the previous mechanics, pretty much every rank is able to do this. It is an easy mechanic to learn, but an extremely hard one to master. It's pretty easy to see that whilst the lower ranks are air rolling, they do not have full control over the direction and orientation of their car, meaning that if they were to hit a moving ball, a lot would struggle. The higher ranks understand how to manipulate their car using air roll and look a lot more comfortable and clean in the air whilst doing so. Constantly air roll, so try and air roll the entire time. Nice. Whilst there are little hiccups here and there, they are a lot less frequent than the lower ranks and shows perfectly why they are ranked above them. Additionally, some of the high rank players have begun the transition into using directional air roll instead of standard, which to explain briefly, gives them simultaneous control over 2 axes compared to the standard air roll which only allows 1, hence it is just objectively better. With the aerial course, I had the players fly around the edge of the field following the small and large boost pads. If they could, I asked them to weave in and out of the pads and incorporate aerials if they felt comfortable. This may look pretty easy, but trust me, it is definitely not. Those corners are an absolute nightmare to deal with, and all the participants did pretty well. Similar to the other mechanics, car control and speed evidently becomes better as we climb the ranks, but one thing I did notice was that the higher ranks did use aerial more. This is a direct reflection onto the last mechanic and really shows the difference between simply being able to fly and aerial versus being able to fly and aerial in a controlled and purposeful manner. So if you're on par with the lower ranks, try to work on exactly that, practicing your aerials in specific directions and trying not to mess up. It can get pretty tough, but you seem to be doing alright. Doing really well. It's actually a lot harder than it looks, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's like...
It's actually a lot harder than it looks. Like, I actually struggle. Especially the corners. Yeah. The stall is a pretty niche mechanic, meaning you either know it or you don't. I put this in to test their mechanical breadth rather than their ability, and the results were interesting. It is not that hard of a mechanic to learn, but is hard to do consistently. A flip cancel sort of. As we can see, after a few tries, the golds were able to get it simply because they knew the button inputs to do it, but the plat had never practiced it, so didn't do it. This doesn't mean that they're a bad player, as the mechanic itself is pretty useless. It just highlights that good mechanical knowledge does not correspond to a high rank whatsoever. Again, the Diamonds and Champs could all do it easily, but one of the GCs had never learnt it, so couldn't do it either. You know how you cancel the air roll one way? I don't know if you've done it before.
Honestly, probably not.
This is one of the most popular flashy mechanics in the game and is something every rank wants to know how to do. However, it requires a surprisingly high amount of mechanical control and finesse to do, and as we can see, the lower ranks struggled to hit one, and when they did, it was after several failed attempts. Personally, I didn't learn how to musty consistently until I was Grand Champ, purely because I never put in the time to learning it, as I didn't really need it in games. But we do see some pretty good musties in the higher ranks, and some of the players told me that they feel more comfortable hitting one from the ceiling rather than the ground, simply because they practice it more. Oh, you got it. Let's see. Flip. That works for me. Ah, there we go. Oh. I'll count that. One of the GCs even went for a breezy instead, which, well, you saw how it ended. I decided to put this one in to purely test the players and to further show that a certain rank does not equal a certain level of mechanics. As expected, the golds and plats were unable to do this. I would have been extremely surprised if they could. Gold, diamond to be doing double resets anyway. Even champs, it's a stretch. This is solely like GC and above. It's more close. However, one of the diamonds who had very good mechanics was able to pull off a double store reset, whereas the other wasn't. Again, one of the champs hit the shot and the other did not, and it was exactly the same case with the Grand Champs. This just further shows the extreme variance between the ranks and is probably the best example in the video that proves my point that you do not need to know extremely advanced mechanics to rank up. So whilst this is a cool video to see how mechanics evolve as players rank up and improve, it was also an experiment for me to prove to you guys or the Rocket League community that there is not a direct correlation between mechanics and rank. Only a loose one which becomes less apparent the more niche the mechanic.
I'm 1700 right now, I believe.
Damn.
Because I traded my way to my PC.
Like, able to afford a PC from trading.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. So I've probably talked about the point in the video enough, so I won't elaborate, but I hope I've done a good job at conveying it to you guys. Above all, I hope you enjoyed and found it cool, and if you did, be sure to subscribe to help us get to 100k.